Maybe it's good to feel like you were born yesterday, reborn from the ashes of the toxic waste. Well, we're gonna go back to Montreal by night. Enough of the streamception. Hey, Leaf Jones, you again. Shout out to Leaf Jones. Okay, so chapter 5 Covens. So I just went to a street art talk somewhere in, I think it was in Charlevoix or something like that. Close to Charlevoix station. I don't know what the name of the neighborhood is over there. Pointe Saint-Charles, quelque chose du genre. I don't think it's not Saint-Henri. Yeah, it's Pointe Saint-Charles. You have Saint-Henri, Little Burgundy, and then Pointe Saint-Charles, and then Verdun. And that was pretty interesting, to say the least. Yeah, it was all about the different street art, and it's been like since I came back to Montreal, it's been a really big focus, like all the street art, and like I've been putting graffitis and stuff like that in my game for a long time, but now it's another thing that I will need to consider even more, because art is about saying fuck you to the rules and to the systems of oppression, of control, of the good people. I'm a good person. My concerns about your life. We don't give a fuck, Pauline. Your waspy attitude is not welcome here. So yeah, it was pretty interesting, and so having graphers and kind of challenging the authority is quite interesting, and so therefore putting their art in my heart without an edge is kind of the same thing. But it's kind of really funny because it's always the same. You want to rebel against the system, but then when you can actually profit of the system, then you're happy to have the system working for you. It's only when you're able to become a leash of the system that you're actually supporting the system. So whoever is not anarchists is actually a parasite. It's the American live free or die kind of attitude. Anyway, the Covens of Montreal by night. For there is no friend like a sister in calm or stormy weather, to cheer one on the tedious way, to fetch one if one goes astray, to lift one if one totters down, to straighten whilst one stands. Christina Rossetti, Goblin Market. So let's see how many freaking pages is there. Oh, it's too much. I'm probably gonna do that, the Lost Angels. Oh, Fuck. And that will be it. Fucking hell. Why did I start reading this book? Oh, yeah, because no one else did it. And because I want to do it. Because I like it. Okay, so the coven is a Sabbath member's family, home. That concept of home coming back again. Circle of friends and parents, all rolled into one. While individual vampires have their own feelings about the conditions in Montreal, their covens have factionalized based. Eh? Their coven have factionalized based on the three vampires who are vying for power: Archbishop Carolina Velez of the Los Angeles, Alfred Benezri of the Shepherds, and Ezekiel from 2517. Let me take a minute. To put some ambience. Vinculum rating. A complex series. Oh, that's maybe a bit too loud. Imperfection, incompleteness, and impermanence. Wabi Zabi. Wabi Zabich. A complex series of blood bonds called the vinculum ties the Sabbath together. Where players' Sabbath characters are concerned, it's important to keep track of individual vinculum ratings. The same is true for Montreal's key individual and the covens. Otherwise, assume that coven mates share a vinculum rating of 6 to 8, allies of a rating of 3 to 6, and simple acquaintances a rating of 0 to 4. This is mateship, bitch. Ha 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 ha. We're all in this shit together. If I fall, you fall. So I'll back you up even if you do crap. The Voldery is held frequently during crusades, and ratings should increase by 2 during those times. Ratings should also be modified by the personalities and habits of individual vampires. Archbishop Carolina Velez and her supporters. The covens that have lined up to support Carolina Velez, the Archbishop imposed on Montreal by Cardinal Strathcona, form a loose coalition of diverse Sabbath. Coalition, another keyword there. People won't understand because it's really based on what my experience has been. And it's referring to Australia's political parties. The Cathari widows have considerable influence, but the nomadic navigators have little weight in the city. The Archbishop's hold on power is precarious at best. That's always the case because that's the politics of drama. Abuse of power. Control and power, that's just the way it is. It's brutal, and that's why people coming up for the power needs to be dealt with in a swift, elegant, and yet bloody manner. The Los Angeles. Death is everywhere. There are flies on the windscreen. For a start, reminding us we could be torn apart tonight. Fly on the windscreen by Depeche Mode. The Los Angeles have come a long way since their creation 25 years ago in Mexico City. the 1980s, their pack was among the few sent into the anarch-free state to re-establish a Sabbath foothold in California, which was lost in the 60s. Unfortunately, the Sabbath effort was plagued by internal problems. Surprise! Archbishop Fuller, who was responsible for the operation, was inept and refused to grant his sub-commanders any freedom. Micromanagement? Yes, you want results, but you don't want people to take any um, uh, you know, decisions. His methods were narrow-minded, waspy, resulting in a number of futile confrontations between the Sabbath and the Anarch of Los Angeles. The Los Angeles suffered under Fuller's command, losing 3 packmates during their first 6 months in the city. They then disassociated themselves from their commander and infiltrated the Mexican, Latino, and vampire gangs in California, establishing a power base. It was this manipulation that eventually saved the Sabbath effort in LA. Carolina Velez contacts with the Mexican community and local law officer prevented all out war in LA and saved the Sabbath mission from absolute failure. Following these events, tensions ran high in the Sabbath. Archbishop Fuller accused the Los Angeles of treachery. Velez accused him of incompetence. Sounds familiar? Cardinal Strathcona was forced to intercede and settle the dispute. Strathcona was found Fuller guilty of Velez's charge and put her in charge of LA's Sabbath. Wow, so a woman complaining about a man was actually given a positive outcome, even if the man was completely incompetent. Wow, that's unheard of. Ooh, fucking vampires are doing it much better than politicians, don't they? I'm sorry. I had a long day. In the years that followed the Sabbath, hidden among Los Angeles vampire gangs grew in numbers. Velez recognized that her sect didn't rule the city and would have to work in secret until it did. Velez's reputation as a fair leader spread, though she was unafraid to enforce discipline and met out punishment. What's that? Okay. As Sabbath in LA continued to increase in number and quietly gain power, Velez restricted pact activities and use of rights to avoid attracting attention. Perhaps she was too restrictive, though. In the 90s, she refused to call a crusade during the Redneck King riots, even though bishops pleaded with her to do so. Had the Sabbath attacked the Anarch at that point, the city might have fallen. In retrospect, Velez acknowledged her excessive conservatism. For a Sabbath member, it's quite surprising to be a conservative, right? Later that month, the Los Angeles were recalled to Mexico, where they spent the following year. The LA mission was abandoned for the time being. The Los Angeles were at admonished and branded to remind them of their failure. But once again, Cardinal Strathcona intervened. Sangre's trial was nearing its end, and Montreal was in need of an archbishop. Strathcona had always been impressed with Valles. He recognized qualities of his own in the Mexican beauty. The cardinal convened with the Sabbat regent and other cardinals. They agreed to give Valles the archdiocese of Montreal as long as Strathcona agreed to assume personal responsibility for her actions. The Los Angeles greeted the news with enthusiasm, but Valles was apprehensive. Going from disgrace to leadership of the old Sabbath enclave in North America would earn her coven the enmity of many. Yet, she also saw it as a chance to redeem herself in the eyes of the Sabbath. The Los Angeles made a smooth transition into Montreal. Their accomplishment quickly won over a number of the city's Sabbath. The shepherds were initially wary of Valles, but the angels made efforts to attend a number of shepherds' rites and to occult with the shepherds on important matter. Ezekiel's pack is the only group that openly resent the archbishop and the angels. The pack leaders have come close to open confrontation. Drama. And it. Lair. The coven maintained a lair in Cardinal Strathcona's old quarters, which is connected to the central hall of the communal heaven. This subterranean mansion is reminiscent of an 18th century home with two indoor black rose gardens, a lavish meeting hall, and open rooms, all adorned with paintings of events in Sabbath history and portraits of Strathcona. Each pack member has a room that is decorated to her personal taste. Rites and practices. The Toast of Midnight. The Los Angeles hold an open Vaulderie in Kane's Chapel every night at 12 o'clock. It is common knowledge that any unofficial business with the Archbishop or pack can be discussed after the ceremony. Valles uses this time to converse freely with those in her charge. The rite begins with the Sermon of Cain. It is led by Tobias, who uses obtenoration for added emphasis and effect. Archbishop Valles distinguished herself during covert operation in the anarchist Free States of California. At least until the very end of her tenure, her political service turned methods and cautiousness made her Strathcona's ideal choice to restore order and confidence in Montreal after Sangre's trial. I'm sorry. I'm still getting used to some pronunciation out loud. What the cardinal could not anticipate was that the very skills that made Valles effective in LA would work against her in the open political climate of Montreal. Oh. Okay. Valles is with mortals and anarch vampires is widely perceived as a weakness in Montreal, especially because she disdained excessive violence and public displays of vampirism. The cardinal did not think that would be a problem in Montreal, where a scholarly tradition elsewhere and extreme shows of violence were relatively rare. The shepherd's support of Valles is fleeting, though. They consider her necessary as a transition, not as a permanent fixture, and have groomed Alfred Benezri to replace her. Meanwhile, Ezekiel consistently pointed out Valles' weaknesses and excessive humanity. The humanity. What are we gonna do with that? Although she is considered weak by vocal members of the Sabbath, Valles is a shrewd and cunning manipulator and often exaggerates her weaknesses to distract her detractors from her true motives. Valles is a cold and efficient killer. She has no qualm about punishing those who break the code of million, and she enjoys making example of them. A favorite form of punishment is to have offenders drained of blood and hang upside down in the communal heaven. Such a low humanity. Such a high humanity, sorry. um, Vales's biggest secret is a relationship with her mortal granddaughter Josefina. Although Valese abandoned her mortal life when she was embraced, she was never able to cut all ties with her mortal daughter Maria. Okay. For the first few decades of her own life, this did not prove to be a problem. However, when mortal, Valese was always conscious of her beauty. As her years as a La Sombra wore on, the lack of a reflection began to torment her. A mirror image eventually became an obsession, at least until her daughter had a child. When Valese laid eyes on her mortal granddaughter, she recognized her own beauty in the child. Gripped by frenzy, she slew her granddaughter, and Maria's father took the child away and placed her in the care of a group of Grimaldi revenants. Using her influence and power, she kept a jealous eye on Josefina, guiding and protecting the girl. During Vales's tour in California, she arranged to have Josefina follow her, keeping the mortal close by to remind Carolina of her former beauty. When Valese became Archbishop of Montreal, she plotted softly for Josefina to come along again. Valese is extremely protective of her granddaughter and has saved her from the Sabbath several times. Unfortunately, Josefina's beauty is fading with age, and Valese is beginning to consider her expendable. Will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? The Archbishop has arranged for Josefina to marry and have a child. Oh, hoping that her future great granddaughter will perpetuate Carolina's beauty and take Josefina's place. Josefina senses that she has a guardian angel, and she has become an amateur occultist to learn more about her protector, which makes it difficult for Valese to keep her away from the Sabbath's attention. Valle's obsession has only led to several inexplicable orders given to Montreal vampire, which only perpetuate Valle's image of weakness. Too much. Today, Valese finds herself in a precarious position as she tries to hold the city together. Montreal, the oldest Sabbath-based bastion in North America, is threatened by both external and internal forces. Valese knows that her destiny and reputation are bound to the fate of the city. The only way to save her own position is to restore Montreal to what it once was, a nearly impossible task given the shepherd's plan and Ezekiel's vendetta. Nonetheless, Valles hopes that with each small victory, the darkness around Montreal is pushed back. Image. Valès is beautiful. Her skin retains its olive color even in death, and her black hair contrasts with her emerald eyes. Valès usually wears black leather pants, a white, almost see through blouse, and a leather vest. That doesn't tell me how long it's been going on. You are determined and calculating. You know when to push and when to back away, but you never accept defeat. Although you are a fair leader, you possess a cruelty that's only glimpsed when you choose to release it. Your manner of speech combined with your sultry looks engender a sense of intimacy which makes others easy to manipulate. Yep, that's the way. If you look good, you can be manipulative. People won't see it as much. Thanks to the widows and Marie-Hélène, Valès is well informed of events in Montreal. Unbeknownst to most, Valès has 4 Grimaldi Revenant agents at work in the city. They grant her influence over mortal affairs. She is from Clan La Sombra. She's a perfectionist. She has a demeanor of architect. Generation 8 only. Wow. Okay. She was impressed in 1958 in her late 20s. Blah 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 2232346 and that is it. I'm not gonna enumerate all the stats, I'm sorry. But so now I'm gonna do, I guess I'm gonna do at least Tobias for sure. Tobias was impressed in Malta in the late 1980s. Oh, when was Venice? Oh, it's like 80 years before. Wow. And has been with the Sabbath ever since. A former member of several influential and respected packs, Smith fought bravely in the Sex Civil War. He rose quickly through the ranks and became a Templar to Cardinal de Moine during World War I. His career was long and distinguished, and he went on to advise and protect Cardinal de Moine in Mexico City. Smith himself might have been named Cardinal if he had not been so distracted by the mortal Cardinal Valès. He wanted her from afar for a month. Oh, he watched her from afar for a month and fell in love with the Mexican's intensity. Giving in to his desire, he kidnapped Carolina and forced her through the creation rites, only to be fraught with guilt. He left the cemetery before she rose, leaving her to be discovered by other Sabbath. From that day forward, Smith looked after Valès and used his influence to pave a road to success. Tobias was not planning to join Valès's pack, but could not stand the idea that she would be in LA, far from his watchful eye. The two have been together ever since, but Smith can't bring himself to confess his feelings, partly because he sees his emotional attachment as a weakness. Though they do not see eye to eye on many subjects, Smith and Valès respect and understand each other's. Their combination as moderate and ultra-conservative provides the Los Angeles with its greatest strength. Tobias Smith is austere. His square jaw and narrow eyes seems to be set in stone. His grey hair suggests age and wisdom. Smith dresses in grey or black conservative suits and always wears a cloak, even in summer. He uses obtenebration to make himself more imposing. Role-playing ins. You only speak when you have to, often waiting until the most crucial moment to say something and turn the conversation to your favor. Words are power. Yep. And should be used for maximum effect. Your stern and dour personality has caused many young Sabbath to label you a cynical elder, but your intensity and ferocity usually allay any such accusation. Smith knows of Vales's granddaughter and does what he can to protect his love secret. Josephina shares her grandmother's beauty, and ironically may tempt Tobias to embrace her as well. Both the shepherds and Ezekiel respect Tobias. Ezekiel sees him as a father figure and has asked him on numerous occasions to create a new covenant with him. Smith has refused, not willing to part with Vales, but knows that if her secret ever gets out, it will spell her end as well as his. Tobias will eventually have to choose between the Sabbath and Vales. He is from Clan La Sombra of nature autist and is a traditionalist, and he is obviously from Generation 7. Oh, and Brest. Oh yeah, in the late 1880s. Okay. I would like to draw those people with the few elements that I have. Sorry. Well, it's been 30 minutes. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm getting tired. It's past 11. So I will get back to Gaston Roland, the Wanderer. Oh, the Wanderer! Another sign. I will come back to Gaston another day. Hopefully tomorrow. I'm getting cold as well, so I'm gonna go under the blanket and have a good night's sleep. Sounds good? Alrighty. I'll see you another day. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to work a bit. I need to do a few edits of the videos. Not editing the video, but the comments and all that to make it a bit more searchable. I will try to incorporate some of the new stuff that I've learned today of serie, and maybe do a build, because I haven't done a build in a long time, and there's an extra few things that I've done, and I will probably need to update Unity as well. I've realized that I'm still on 2020.3 .18 or something, and so yeah, and so I'm like, it's November 2021. I should at least use this one, right? So I will probably do the update tomorrow and do a build to test if everything works well, and hopefully it will, because I'm like, why do I keep on staying on 2020.3? I will should I update to, it's should I update to this one 2.2? Might as well, but oh, so now we're gonna go on 2022.1. So maybe I should go to 2021.2. Yeah. I hope it's not gonna break everything. Let's do that. Alrighty. Have a good night. I will do all that. I have to do the edit for Emily's voice as well. So we'll see how that goes. That should be fun, and hopefully I will be productive enough. Good night. Sleep tight, my child.